Today we'll preview the NASCAR Cup Series at the Daytona Road Course. This is the second time in 2 years. The Cup Series are going to have to handle the tricky inside section that is usually seen for the 24 hours of Daytona. We'll preview the race, which drivers to watch, and pick our winners, all right here on Grid Live Pre-Race. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. We invite you to comment and participate in the chat room. Love to answer your questions on the air and share your opinions when we can. With me today, Kobe Lambeth from the Podium finish. NASCAR is back at Daytona, the first time back-to-back Cup Series points events at Daytona International Speedway.
For the second year in a row, the NASCAR Cup Series trucks and Xfinity are all coming to the Daytona Road Course after losing the race in Fontana. Auto Club Speedway is unable to host events at this time due to the pandemic. This race replaced Homestead Miami in the Truck Series, but we'll get into that later in the show. And first event, no qualifying, so we'll find out where everyone falls in line at the drop of the green flag. With the triple header at Daytona, been a good chance at really starting off the season with the type of excitement. Oh my God, I got a little tongue-tied there, Joe. I apologize for that. And here's my question for you. Will the triple header at Daytona be a good chance at really starting the season off with the type of excitement we didn't exactly have at the Daytona 500?
A lot going on, triple header, all sorts of stuff. I do think this is a good opportunity for NASCAR to try to recapture some of that energy that we lost with the Daytona 500. Of course, some of the diehard race fans, they stuck through the 5-hour rain delay. I know we stuck through it. We're big at, huge into motorsports. For the casual fan that may have tuned out, especially if they saw the big wreck, if they have picked the driver, got in the wreck, a rain delay, tuned out, and then we're probably caught by surprise. Oh, they continue racing that day? I was already out and about, made other plans. So I do think this is a great opportunity. This triple header, just another great opportunity for NASCAR. And especially when it comes to the racing, the road course racing, this is going to be a very new element for all the drivers.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the Xfinity race today and leading into the Cup race tomorrow, because I don't really think the triple header weekend got off to a great start. I know we'll talk about the Truck Series race later in the program, but a lot of people didn't particularly enjoy last night's race because of all of the caution that happened, and particularly 2 long caution periods, which we'll touch later on. And here's the good news this weekend. Unlike last weekend where we saw a very lengthy weather delay, rain tires are an option at the Daytona Road Course, so no worries about delays for precipitation only. But the bad news, something we'll always have to watch in Florida, especially this state, severe weather and lightning strikes would delay on-track action. The Daytona 500 was delayed by 5 hours and 40 minutes, which took away the event's energy, and the TV ratings afterward definitely reflected that. However, Michael McDowell had enough energy to be up all night in the following day. The surprise winner of the 63rd running of the Daytona 500 has been extremely busy, as always, for any Daytona 500 winner. He had the victory lane celebration, got the championship ring. Then he had a media press conference on Zoom at 1 a.m. Eastern time. Then he had the champions breakfast early on Monday morning, got a Rolex wristwatch. Plus, he had to meet with the media once again for countless interviews. But a lot going on for Michael McDowell, and he's starting second in tomorrow's race. On Wednesday's Grid Tonight, we talked about qualifying and the need to reintroduce it sooner rather than later at all rounds, considering all of the other major racing series in the world still have qualifying. If we had qualifying instead of assigned starting positions, do you think Michael McDowell would still be starting in the front row?
Michael McDowell is a good road racer. He has experience from the Mazda Pro Series, even Champ Car, Indy cars. But when it comes to the equipment at Front Row Motorsports, I don't see them being in contention for the pole or the front row. So this is where that Formula NASCAR has the equity as, hey, you had a really good Daytona 500 race. We're going to recognize that, and that's going to help put you in the front. Michael McDowell starting second. If there was qualifying, I don't see that happening for him and Front Row Motorsports.
Yeah, same. I do think, that winning Daytona 500, that'll definitely be the highlight of Michael McDowell's career, and also and probably in the entire history of front row motorsports. But if we had regular qualified, I really don't think that equipment would be up to par to get the front row and qualify. So I definitely think that this format, assigning a starting position qualifying, it definitely helped out Michael McDowell here, because under regular circumstances, I really don't see it possible him having the car to qualify second. But if it were to rain, I think Michael McDowell will have a great shot to win this race. But he is a great road racer, so we'll just have to see what happens. Not many people pick Michael McDowell to win the Daytona 500, so imagine how crazy people would go if he was able to sweep both races at Daytona on the oval and the road course. And if McDowell wins, he'll be the sixth driver in history to win the 500 and the following race. It was last done in 2009 with Matt Kenseth. The crew chief was Drew Blickensurfer, and he's now Michael McDowell's crew chief at Front Row Motorsports. Still, some big time favorites are standing in the way of McDowell winning tomorrow's race.
Some of the big favorites to win the race include the pole sitter Chase Elliott. He won the event last year. He started on the pole. Austin Dillon is third. He did the Rolex 24 hours this year. Got seat time. He is looking fast and feeling very confident after his strong run at the Daytona 500. Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick round out the top five, all Daytona 500 winners. Taking a quick glance at the weather forecast for tomorrow, temperatures are looking to be around the 60s. The chance of rain is pretty much very low, so no equalization of the fields with wet weather conditions. The top three last year all started from the top 10. Do you see the winner coming from the top five today, Kobe?
No, I actually don't. When we get to pick a winner section later in the show, you're probably going to be a little bit surprised with my pick a winner, because I'm going with somebody who's in mid pack. I do think that we have a lot of drivers up front who can contend, but I don't see them winning this time around. And I'm going to give people a little spoiler. I'm not going to go with that. Seemed like everyone's calling him the road course king lately. I'm not going to pick Chase Elliott to win at the Daytona Road Course this year.
You said Chase Elliott, the road course king. That's really interesting. I can't wait for us to get to pick winner, see who your pick is. Interesting to note, Michael McDowell last year, he finished 10th after starting 30th. What a difference a year makes. Of course, now he's in the front row. Be really interested to see how he can contend for that win. The Daytona Road Course, of course, is very challenging course all around. Very challenging, especially with no practice, no qualifying. Very few drivers have done a lap here, and essentially it's going to be something where it's going to be a big challenge for all the drivers. Here's what Ryan Preece had to say about that challenge.
Well, I haven't done a whole lot of it in my career, and I've tended to be okay at it, which I'm pretty proud of. So, JTG was lucky enough to have a guy like AJ Allmendinger, who's a road course racer just as much as I was a short track racer, right? So, those are high expectations to live up to, but every time I get in that race car when I go to a road course, I study. I was just sitting here watching the Clash before I got on here, and I try to excel at it. So as long as we keep improving week in, week out, then there's nothing really to hang my head on. So it's the one thing I do have going for me is short tracks are pretty similar when it comes to road course racing. It's a lot of heavy braking, a lot of on throttle, and then it just comes to communication and just keep making the car better.
Now, Ryan Preece was answering the question from Claire B. Lang from Dialed In on XM Radio regarding the road course challenge. Now, interesting stat, Ryan scored more points this year in the Daytona 500 than he did in the first 5 races last year. So Ryan Preece off to a better start, looking at keeping the positive momentum. One team that had momentum late in the 500 but lost it all, Team Penske, all wrecked out. Joey Logano, of course, he had the lead with half a lap to go. He and Brad Keselowski both made contact. Of course, both of them out of the race. Here's Joey Logano telling Jenna Fryer from the Associated Press on his emotions now after the Daytona 500.
No, I mean, I don't think anyone did anything wrong. I mean, everyone's going to have different perspectives, and I think that's probably where we're going to be. And to me, the biggest heartbreak of this whole thing is that there's 400 people at Team Penske asking where their Daytona 500 bonus is, and it's up in a ball of flames up in turn 3 right now, right? Like that to me is probably the hardest part to deal with, because those families put just as much into it as I do, You know, and you know, I've learned this the most when we won the championship in 2018, and you know, I did this kind of victory tour and went to a lot of different places and met a lot of people and didn't understand how much we affected people's livelihoods. And when I realized that, it kind of changed my thought process a lot on what I do behind the wheel. And so that's probably to me the most frustrating part, and they should be frustrated too about it. I'm angry about it. So that part is probably what stings the most, is that, you know, we had a really good shot at having a Penske 1-2, and instead we finished 12th and 13th.
Thanks, Joey.
Very interesting point he brings out, Kobe, is this is not only about winning, it's about the employees at Team Penske that he is racing for. He did tell Pockris at the same press conference he will talk to Brad Keselowski before the race on Sunday. Does it appear the situation on Team Penske is under control and it's not really a battle of the teammates?
Oh yeah, Joe. This is a really interesting situation here because as of right now, as we know, Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano still haven't talked after that crash on the final lap of the Daytona 500, and it's obvious, you know, that Brad was not happy with Joey Logano at all, and this is not the first time that we've seen those two have conflict before at Team Penske, and also not the first time that we've seen high profile drivers get into conflict. I remember when Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson had that little battle going on at Hendrick, when it seemed like those two were not going to get along for the longest time, but they eventually worked out their situation. Also, look what happened with Sir Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg in Formula One, Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna. So there's been a lot of high profile drivers on high profile teams going at it. I just think it just shows that how competitive it is to be I guess that quote unquote number one driver. And I know, Joe, we were talking a little bit about this before we went on the air with Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski. It seems like in a way at Team Penske, they're like tied for that number one driver role. And when you're vying for the top spot, and especially a crown jewel like the Daytona 500, at some point it's definitely not a surprise to see you know, tempers flare, emotions at an all-time high, because this is the Daytona 500, and like Joey Logano was saying, all of those employees at Team Penske make a lot of sacrifices. They work so hard all winter to get these cars down to the speedway, and it seemed like Team Penske had this race won, especially since they were all single file and unorganized, and then to have that happen on the final lap is totally understandable to see why Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano will feel that way, because that's the Great American Race, the granddaddy of them all.
The Great American Race, with less than half a lap left, and looks like it's going to be a Penske 1-2. Keselowski has not won that race. Joey Logano has won that race. So, of course, Keselowski wants to go. He wants to earn that win, put down his resume. Fortunately, that was not the case. The two of them ended up wrecked. And that has to really, I think, hurt the morale, especially as Joey Logano said, all the Team Penske employees, they could have had bonuses if there was any one of those two had taken the win. Instead, it's all now essentially turn 3 up in the ball of flames. So very tough break. And hearing Joey Logano talk about that, knowing they haven't talked exactly yet, but it sounds like they are planning to discuss, talk, and move forward about how they could, as a team, work together going forward. Because the big thing, and this is where I think there shows a lot of, I would say, character, he's thinking about the employees he's racing for. He's thinking about everyone in the shop. We've seen sometimes drivers, they go out there, they're not exactly thinking about the shop, the people behind the scenes, just about themselves. So definitely this is something I feel for Penske, it might be under a better situation compared to if another team had this very similar situation. Now, at the Daytona Road Course, Joey Logano is 5th in the driver ratings based on last year's race, looking to deliver for his team, and especially put the Daytona 500 behind him. And another two drivers looking at putting the Daytona 500 behind him, the 24 and that 48.
Yes, Alex Bowman and William Byron were looking at a dream start, all Hendrick front row fast cars, but in Duel 2, Byron crashed and unfortunately had to go to a backup car. Alex Bowman experienced drama in Duel 1 with potential engine issues. Hendrick identified the problem and the 48 kept the pole, so everyone thought all was good for the number 48 Allied Financial Chevrolet. But in the Daytona 500, only 14 laps in, victory went out the window because of the big one. And today, well, tomorrow, William Byron starting 22nd, Alex Bowman all the way back in 36. What's the best way for those two drivers to rebound and start 2021 on the right foot?
Best way for the two of them to rebound, get their season going in the right direction, avoid all the trouble, finish the race, try to gain as many positions as possible. Both of them are starting way in the back. Both of them have very good, fast vehicles. So the big thing, of course, the Daytona Road Course, we anticipate there's going to be a lot of passing. There could be a good number of yellow flags, crashes. We don't have to worry about the weather, thankfully. But for them, they need to really just put on a good performance, get as good, solid, high finish as possible. I mean, we seen last year, Michael McDowell at this race at the road course, 30th to 10th place. Byron, Bowman, they had the potential, I believe, for top 10 finish. Maybe not a win, but if they could get in the top 10, that has to feel like a victory after their dismal Daytona 500.
Yeah, definitely. And along with the two Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolets, a lot of big names are starting, towards the back of the field. Tyler Reddick in 24th had a really strong showing in the Busch Clash on the road course. Eric Almirola 26, Ryan Blaney 27th, Ryan Newman 33rd, Daniel Suarez 35th, and Eric Jones in the Richard Petty Motorsports number 43 starting 37. Do you see anyone from 20th on back potentially contending for the win tomorrow?
It's going to be really interesting if one of these drivers were to contend for the win. I would think probably has to be maybe Blaney. We've seen Blaney come up towards the front. He won at the Roval. He does pretty good at the road courses, but still, this is just going to be a big challenge for all these drivers. And the names you brought up, Reddick, he got good equipment with RCR. Suarez, that 99 was looking really fast up until the lap 14 crash. Jones, the 37th place, I think that's a little bit too far back, but when it comes for the win, maybe Blaney, but I don't see really anybody else that far back.
Well, I've had to pick a driver out of that group. I'd definitely go with Tyler Reddick in the 8 car. I think Tyler Reddick could be destined for a breakout season, and based on what we saw in the Daytona 500, our RCR's look really good so far throughout Speed Week. Austin Dillon had a great start to the season, and unfortunately, Tyler Reddick was involved in the crash and couldn't really do anything in the Daytona 500. But especially after we saw how well he performed and contended during the exhibition race at the very start of the season, I do think that we could see Tyler Reddick move up throughout the field. I don't know if he'll contend for the win, but I definitely think a top 10, top 15, definitely not out of the question for the driver to number 8, RCR Chevrolet. Another driver starting in the back, returning to the Cup Series garage, likely to be competitive, is AJ Allmendinger. He's running the Xfinity race today, going for that championship with Colleague Racing. With AJ's impressive road course racing skills, this will give Matt Colleague's operation a good evaluation of their equipment at the Cup level. Here is AJ Allmendinger, Ashley McCubbin from the news, from the pits on the Daytona Road Course's biggest challenges.
Well, thanks, Ashley. I think it's just it's lack of grip. That was something last year in the Xfinity race I was shocked by. Like, it was slick. And watching the Clash, it doesn't look like there's much more grip out there. You can definitely tell from the in-car cams and just watching the race. I mean, you got to be easy on the throttle. It's easy to lock the brakes up, first of all. So if you lock a tire up, I mean, you're going to have to pit most likely. It's easy to be aggressive on the throttle and burn the rear tires up really quick. And especially into the bus stop. Now with the Turtles, it's easy to make a mistake and pay the price. And then it's easy in the final chicane to get in too deep. And we saw contact. If you're side by side, you're going to probably make contact. And if you get in too deep, you're probably going to run through the chicane and have to do a stop and go on the front straightaway. So it's just lack of grip overall. And if you're deep in the field, I think it's going to be easy, especially where we start. Even if the car is really good and I can start moving up through the field to overuse the car early in the race. So I think COTA, maybe something like that, where it's lack of grip, but comparing it to the other road courses that are on the schedule, I would say it's probably like Sonoma, where it's just so easy to use the tires and brakes up so early in a run and pay the price at the end of it. So that's something that early on, trying to get used to the car and what it feels like. And then on top of it, just know how easy I have to be to have some tire at the end of the run will be a big deal.
Last night's caution-filled NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race on the Daytona Road Course had the feeling of a race that would never end. NASCAR declared a wet weather start, and the drivers had to put on the rain tires. Then the track experienced mixed conditions as the racing surface started to dry. Various strategy calls to switch from wet to slick racing tires came into play. This wasn't a big deal for John Hunter Nemechek, who won Stage 1. Unfortunately, Nemechek's number 4 Kyle Busch Motorsports Toyota found trouble later on. Nemechek ran out of gas, lost a lap, stalled on track to bring out the caution in such a tough break for the dominant truck in the opening stage. He was really the only one who could challenge Ben Rose and Sheldon Creed for the win, but Rafael Lozada went on to win Stage 2. In the final stage, it took us 3 attempts in overtime to finish the race. Ben Rose was able to hold on and win the race, scoring back-to-back victories for ThorSport at Daytona on the oval and road course. This was Toyota's 200th win in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Sheldon Creed, who won the truck race on the Daytona Road Course in August, came up short this time around and settled for second. John Hunter Nemechek got his lap back, stormed through the field, and ended up finishing third. So definitely a spectacular recovery drive for John Hunter Nemechek. And we had 10 cautions for 20 laps. 2 of those were lengthy yellow flag periods. The entire race lasted 2 hours, 44 minutes, and 46 seconds, longer than the Cup race on the Daytona Road Course last August, longer than even an IMSA sprint race, which is 2 hours and 40 minutes. Of course, in IMSA competition, there are 2 co-drivers that split up the drive time.
I was definitely on a mission there, Bob. We're running out of fuel, running second, chasing Sheldon down there for the lead at Stage 2. It's uncalled for, but at the same time, with how everything was going and the pace and everything else, we thought we were going to be good on fuel, and we weren't. So we win and lose as a team. Stand by Eric and Adam, my engineer, and everyone on the team, and we'll learn from it, move on, not make the same mistake twice. But it was a good rally for us to come home third after going a lap down and having to go to the back a few times. So overall, solid points day for us, and we'll just keep on trucking. That's all we can do.
Yeah, I was actually not very happy with that. I feel like I passed him for the lead really cleanly and left him room and gave him respect, and then he just drove into me into one on the restart. So I don't know. I'll remember that down the road when we're racing hard again, and he might be on the other end of that deal. So I don't know. Frustrated to run second, I guess.
Oh man, this feels amazing. So I gotta say too, we had some fans out today, but I can't wait until we get all the fans back to the racetrack again. I looked like a huge tool when I tried to ghost ride the whip on the front stretch and then ended up in the grass at a dead stop and screaming to absolutely nobody in the stands. So can't wait for the fans to get back. So happy to get Toyota the 200th win. Like, that means so much to me, considering that I got my first win in Toyota, and, you know, we parted ways. We came back again. It comes full circle, and we're able to win right off the bat. Like, that is like so much validation for the hard work ThorSport put in. I mean, they have been working day and night at the shop, and like, I just can't give it up to those guys enough. Everybody at Toyota, all the men and women, everybody at ThorSport Racing, all those men and women, they've done so much work, and just so grateful for that. Our Bombardier Tundra was so fast tonight. And, didn't really skip a beat, so I was pretty happy, just not with all those cautions at the end.
Definitely a big night for Ben Rose there. Definitely a dream start to the 2021 season, going back to back at the Daytona Oval and Daytona Road Course. Great drive for John Hunter Nemechek to come back. It still blows my mind that the defending NASCAR Camping World Truck Series champion Sheldon Creed did not have a sponsor in last night's race. How in the world does the defending champion of a NASCAR National Series not have a sponsor? But that's definitely a discussion for another day. In NASCAR on Fox's Mike Joy tweeted about how long the race was and suggested bringing back the local yellows. For viewers not familiar with this concept, local yellows means no safety car, pace car, just a small section on the track where the racer will slow down, no passing allowed, but the race keeps on going. Do you think local yellows or even the virtual safety car period should be introduced in road course races in NASCAR competition?
I do believe they should be introduced in NASCAR, especially in the road course competitions. It really just prevents these long, drawn-out yellow flag periods. I mean, especially when you have a vehicle stalled. I believe we saw the final caution as the leaders were going through, I believe it was turn 1 and 2. we saw there was a truck on the bottom apron slowing down to a stall. If it was a local yellow, that means okay, turn one, turn two, no passing, slow down. There's going to be a safety crew out there pushing that truck out of the way. I almost feel that even a virtual safety car, of course, that'd be really great. Get that resolved. You could be racing sooner. We have more time racing than behind the pace car. Of course, the restarts are exciting, but I feel the long, drawn out yellow flag periods just hurt the racing. The big thing, of course, you're going to still have some areas like that chicane. If a vehicle stalls and they're outside that chicane, you're going to have racing crews cross the racetrack. You're still going to need to have that full course yellow. I think local yellow, virtual safety cars will work. I even have the opinion you could have a virtual safety car on the super speedway if it was just a stalled vehicle down the apron. That way we just keep the racing going.
Yeah, and you bring up several good points, and I felt like all the yellows we had last night, and especially the two very lengthy yellows that I mentioned earlier on in the show, I felt like that really hurt the flow of the race. I'm looking through social media, a lot of the fans were really upset. They felt like we saw more yellow than we saw green flag racing, and I do think that on road courses we need to introduce local yellow. I think it'll be better for the show. We can still see racing in most sections on the track, but let's say, for example, if we have a car that's stopped on the back stretch on the road course, but not on the racing surface, like but below the double yellow line on the back stretch, then NASCAR can split the course up into different sections, kind of like we see in Formula One, where or what they call them sectors. Well, maybe let's say if we're gonna call this sector 3 or whatever, or even sector 2, it doesn't really matter here, but if the super stretch is a part of a certain sector, then NASCAR can have a local yellow during that section, and no passing will be allowed, like Joe mentioned. And then once they get out of that sector, and then green, go back racing during that section. And when they get back to that section where the yellow flag's at, then just slow down again. I think it's a simple concept that is proven time and time again in other racing series that it can work on the road courses.
I agree. And of course, one of the big things, a lot of people, when it comes to the safety, the local yellows, there are still always a risk. We saw what happened in Formula One a few years ago during the Japanese Grand Prix when a driver tragically crashed into a safety vehicle. So definitely something worth a discussion, and be interested to see where NASCAR goes. Now, of course, going into the Daytona 500, 4 drivers were heavily talked about. But this week, not a whole lot of noise. Kyle Busch, 2-time champion. Of course, he was trying to go for his first 500. Didn't get that. Teammate Denny Hamlin trying to get 3 in a row. That didn't work out. Bubba Wallace, of course, Denny Hamlin co-owns that team. Brand new team. Really strong race. Overcame early contact with Derek Cope. Then, unfortunately, was out of the race with a loose lug nut, loose wheel. All 3 of them are starting in the top 15 for tomorrow's race, with Kyle being the first back at 14th place. Last year, Denny Hamlin finished 2nd place, Wallace 25th, and Kyle did not finish the race. Now, one of the drivers, of course, that had a lot of discussion going to the 500 was Kyle Larson. He didn't get to do this race last year. He did the Rolex 24 Hours back in 2015 with an overall win. Is it essential for these 4 drivers to have a strong run tomorrow? Or are we still early in the season, Kobe, where if they were to have a poor run, it's more forgivable compared to if they made a horrible race later on in the season?
I still think it's really early on in the season, and it's definitely way too early to panic if there's the Daytona 500. It's always a crapshoot. Something crazy going to happen, so you're always likely to get involved in a wreck there. So I wouldn't really say if you're involved in a crash on Daytona 500, I'm going to have a poor season. Even if this race doesn't really go that well, I wouldn't really worry about that either. And even though we have 7 road courses on the schedule this year, so you definitely need to make sure that you're doing well for the most part on all of the road courses. And if it's definitely not a good start to the season first few weeks, I wouldn't really worry about it too much at this stage, because with this crazy championship format, all you have to do is win a race and you're in the playoffs just like that. So if you have a bad start to the season and then go out and win later in the regular season, you can still build up to having a championship team, but you don't want to have that streak of bad luck go on forever and forever, because if you get into a funk, you might stay there and it might end up derailing your season, because I'm a strong believer of momentum and chemistry between team and driver.
You said all the points I was actually going to say as well too. Momentum, the chemistry, and having that good run. And we've seen time and time again, comes down to 1 or 2 points. Now, a driver that is not exactly excited about this weekend has to be Kevin Harvick. Last year, he was on the pole for this race, finished 17th. Of course, he spun around, had issues. Busch Clash, again, spun around, had issues. He's starting 5th tomorrow. Does this allow Harvick to come in with less pressure, considering past results on this track, or more pressure to step it up and perform? What does a good day for Kevin Harvick look like?
Well, it seems like Kevin Harvick's had quite a time on this Daytona Road Course circuit. A lot of struggles you mentioned last year. I'm glad you brought that, because I totally forgot that he spun out in that race last year, and I'm in the Busch Clash, had a lot of issues there. Honestly, I think Kevin Harvick is in good position overall in the championship, because there's a lot of tracks that he's won at over the years and been really good at. And this Daytona Road Course is just one race. And I think a good day for Kevin Hart is simply maximize points and simply complete all the laps and just get to the checker flag and move on to the next week. So I just think that just getting out of the Daytona Road Course, finishing on the elite lap and all of that, it'd be a great race for Kevin Harvick, considering all the struggles he's had on this certain layout.
Yeah, with all the struggles he's had in this layout, Harvick and 40 drivers racing around the road course, definitely going to be a big challenge for everybody. And of course, let's take a lap around the Daytona Road Course. Lap provided by Michael Guerrilla, social media manager at GoPro. Very excited to have you all join us. Coming to the start finish line into turn 1. Of course, one of the big things you want to look out for, a lot of lockups as we approach the first corner. So here we are right now. Start finish line. We're starting our lap, Kobe. Here's that first corner I was talking about, where there's a lot of lockups. Restarts are going to be super treacherous here. We saw yesterday trucks going wide, and then as they try to funnel back here, spin around. Now we're pushing International Horseshoe. Kobe, why is this such a crucial corner?
Oh, right here in International Horseshoe, it's such a crucial corner, because on the restart you're gonna be coming in there hot, and a lot of things can go wrong here. As Calvin Fisher News says, there's always a lot of argy-bargy that can take place in the corner right here. You have a left-hander right here. They call it the kink. Need to make sure you hit all your marks here and head into the Western Horseshoe. Make sure you get it down into first gear. You have a really slow corner here, and then put the pedal to the metal right here on this little short shoot right here.
And I think maybe Kobe may have frozen up, but definitely as we approach that first speedway turn 3, turn 4, 1 and 2, you're coming down towards the backstretch. Backstretch, of course, you're flat out. We saw drivers still pushing, coming into the bus stop. Now, of course, as we approach the bus stop corner, we do have the bus stop where we see new cement coming outside. So about right here, you got cement right there and turtles. Here we come, Kobe, to turn 3 and 4.
Oh yes, I apologize for that. I had a little internet issue, but right here going up on NASCAR 3 and 4 here. This is my favorite part of the track, because the drivers are getting up to full speed, but different from the IMSA layout right here. We have a chicane here on the front stretch to slow down the stock cars. And as you saw on the final lap of the Busch Clash, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney had contact there, so the chicane is set up for a very exciting finish, potentially right there, and that's the lap right here at the Daytona Road Course.
And definitely, of course, thank you again to Michael Guerrilla, social media manager at GoPro Motorplex, for that video. And we definitely hope you all enjoyed a lap around the Daytona Road Course as well. Speaking about iRacing, Galaxy Cup Series was racing at the Daytona Road Course last night in the Truck Series. And we're very excited to share that the Grid Network truck, driven by Dakota Knoll, won the race in the number 5 Grid Network Chevrolet. Big congratulations to him and Radius Racing on that victory. Today, 8 p.m. Eastern on JTTV on YouTube. Check out their Galaxy Cup racing at the Daytona Road Course. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the Grid Network as well. Last weekend, the 53 Grid Network Chevrolet, driven by Mike Tillier, took 10th place in the Galaxy Cup 500-mile race at Daytona. We encourage everyone to check out Galaxy Cup Racing and Radius Racing. Kobe, we had the truck race last night, and then, of course, we're going to have Xfinity racing today.
The NASCAR Xfinity Series is racing today. Indeed, the Superstart Batteries 188. Brett Moffitt starts on the pole with last weekend's Xfinity race winner, Austin Cindric, starting second. Cindric is also the defending winner at the Daytona Road Course. AJ Allmendinger starts, as mentioned earlier, pulling double duty this weekend, running both Xfinity and Cup races with Colic Racing. Andy Lally's in the race, starting 24. Definitely someone to watch on the road courses. Miguel Paludo, a name that we haven't heard forever in NASCAR, is going to be driving a number 8 Chevrolet for JR Motorsports, making his first NASCAR start since 2013. Paludo has been racing full-time in the Porsche GT3 Carrera Cup Series in his native country, Brazil. Natalie Decker will make her Xfinity debut today, driving a number 23 Chevrolet. In recent years, she spent time in ARCA, trucks, and did a little sports car racing on the side. Now she moves up to Xfinity with RSS Racing and Rayoum Brothers Racing in a joint effort for select races. We'll recap Natalie's Xfinity debut on Thursday's episode of the Women Racing to Win. New Orleans Saints running back Alvin Kamara is sponsoring a number 6 Chevrolet driven by Ryan Vargas. Kamara's juice bar chain, the Big Squeezy, hopped on board after Vargas posted on social media looking for sponsorship. Here's what Alvin Kamara and Ryan Vargas had to say about the exciting NFL NASCAR partnership.
You know, he puts me in touch with Tony, who is the VP of JD Motorsports, and so me and Tony get to talking, and kind of we going over logistics and you know, details on how I can make it happen, and you know, we found a way to make it work, and you know, here we are.
You know, you hear Alvin speak. I mean, he's super excited about the sport. He's super excited to be involved in the sport, and it's just a cool opportunity. You know, it all really came together from a tweet. We had no sponsor on the car. On Monday, we had nothing planned. The car was just going to be plain black, plain blank and red. There was nothing going to be on the car. So to have Alvin step up, bring the Big Squeezy on board, you know, one of the companies he co-owns, and be able to represent him and his brand on the racetrack. I mean, it's one heck of an opportunity, and I'm just really thankful for that. I'm thankful for Alvin, thankful for the people at the Big Squeezy for wanting to jump on this as well. It's just an incredible opportunity to be the first person that Alvin jumps into the sport with.
Very exciting opportunity to see Alvin Kamara, Ryan Vargas in NASCAR. Of course, definitely encourage everyone to watch that race, and we'll have a little wrap up tomorrow. Now it's time for one of the favorite segments of the show, Pick a Winner. Be sure to comment in the chat room with your picks on who's going to win the O'Reilly Auto Park 253 at Daytona. Still, nobody on the leaderboard. Nobody picked Michael McDowell last week. And of course, already we've had a couple events, including the IMSA Rolex 24, Monaco, Rally Monte Carlo, and now the Daytona 500 in the books. Who's going to be the first one on the leaderboard? Will it be one of you people, or could it be the defending champion, Kobe? Kobe, who do you have winning the race?
I'm going with the driver who ran extremely well last year at the Daytona Road Course, and also had an extremely fast car on the straights in the Busch Clash until he ended up crashing out on the exit of the bus stop. I'm going to go with the driver to number 19 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota Camry, Martin Truex Jr.
Really solid pick, Martin Truex Jr., of course. He has road course wins. I'm going to go opposite end of the field at the very front. I'm going with Chase Elliott. He is really good in these road courses. Assuming he stays up front, that means you're staying out of trouble. If that pit crew delivers on all the pit stops, he has good restarts throughout the race. I don't see how he's going to fall back unless there's issues with the car or poorly timed pit stop. One of those things. And definitely encourage everyone in the chat room, share your picks. Who do you think is going to win tomorrow's race for the NASCAR Cup Series at Daytona? We'd love to share your picks before we go off the air.
Yeah, definitely with the easy pick right there, Chase Elliott. It's so easy to pick Chase Elliott on all of the road course races. I do think we're going to see Chase Elliott win several road course races this year, and he could very well win at the Daytona Road Course once again. But I really do think that Martin Truex Jr. is going to be his day, and we want to thank everyone for making last Sunday's Daytona 500 pre-race show a huge success. One of our most viewed programs in the history of Grid Network, so we really appreciate your support. Also for Monday's Grit Live wrap up as well. Thank you. Be sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Tomorrow, the Grit Live wrap up, as just mentioned, will take place 90 minutes following the conclusion of the race at the Daytona Road Course. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Grit Rankin for any programming changes, and at Grit_WML for the Grit World Motorsport League. The first standings are going to be out on Monday. On Wednesday, brand new episode of Grit Tonight. We have a special feature celebrating Black History Month. We have Christopher Harris from the African American Racers Association. Thursday, the women racing to win at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. 5 women racing this weekend, presented by Racers, the girls behind the helmet. Be sure to invest in Grit Network. Visit our Patreon page. Link is in the video description below. Join Colin in keeping us on the air throughout the 2021 racing season. A special thank you to all of our new subscribers on YouTube and followers on Twitter. Get your furry family member goodies from Pablo's Dog Leashes, clothing, and accessories for dogs of all sizes. And 10% of your purchase goes to helping homeless, sick, and rescue dogs, a great cause that we support here at Grit Network. For Judge Samaniego, I'm Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching and enjoy the races.
Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Pablo's. Pablo's is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out pawbless.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.